Hello, my chicklets. Thank you for stopping by. Welcome to day 2 of Stories by Edu. I'm really excited about all of these stories. I did try and mix some of the shorter ones with some of the slightly longer one-shots. And then, of course, at the end of the month, we will be doing a much longer story. Please make sure to check out all of the links in the description because that will definitely help you read the stories and find more and interesting stories written by Edu. Without further ado, let me read to you Fear Response. Approximately 28.4% of the population has some degree of shapeshifting ability. Partial transformations are the most common, and most have complete control over their shifts between states. Logan addressed the proctor at his capstone presentation. Next slide, please. A significantly smaller portion of the population have full transformation abilities. Social stigma makes it difficult to garner reliable statistics for the marginalized population. However, current best evidence indicates only 1 out of every 42 shapeshifters, or roughly 0.67% of the overall population, can adopt the full form of another creature. He paused, and only his friends in the front row could see him tap a breathing pattern against his thigh. Next slide, please. Logan adjusted his glasses, frowning at the screen. Of these, involuntary transformation is most common, typically triggered by a fear response. With age, experience, and an extraordinary level of dedicated training, many of these, he cleared his throat, unfortunate individuals are able to develop the skills necessary to control their transformations, similar to how some individuals are able to consciously control parasympathetic functions, e.g., heart rate or blood pressure. After the final question had been answered, the last comment added to his post-mortem notes, and the heavy pneumatic doors in the back of the auditorium finally hissed closed, Logan gathered his laptop and his notes and joined his friends at the foot of the stage. "Logan!" Patton cooed, barreling into him and nearly knocking him to the floor in a breath-defying bear hug. "You were amazing, Lo." "That may be a bit hyperbolic, but thank you, Pat." Logan adjusted his glasses and looked down at his feet. I anticipate losing some points for presentation due to my nervousness." "Nah, Elle." Virgil shook his head. "You looked great up." His eyes widened as his voice suddenly failed. He cleared his throat, raking a hand through his hair. For the presentation. Very professional. My psych professor should take notes." Logan's smile returned as he glanced up at Virgil before resuming his examination of the worn floorboards of the stage. Remus draped an arm around his shoulders, jostling him closer to Virgil. "So, now that this is over, can we finally talk about Halloween?" Logan stared down at the stage, the tip of his ears a bright pink. He nodded. "Yes, Remus, you've been more than patient with me and my need to focus on..." Remus cheered and high-fived his brother. "Yes! Okay, so you all are coming to our haunted house, right? Here, I'll send you a map." The rest of their friend group exploded in sound, with Patton and Roman jumping off the stage to retrieve their phones to show each other the ideas they pinned, and Lucas and Jenna slightly bickering over whose car they should use to pick up a keg. Logan and Virgil exchanged a wordless look. Remus lowered his phone and raised an eyebrow at the pair. "It's not going to be too scary." He raised his right hand. "On my honor, as a sex friend, we won't have too many jump scares." He waggled his eyebrows suggestively. "Just the right amount." "It's going to be a real, authentic haunted house experience," Roman intoned, waving his hands before him. "With snacks," Patton added with a little giggle as he poked him gently in the ribs. "Don't worry, we promise it won't be too scary, Virg." Virgil just lowered his head, hands in his pockets. "We will all appreciate that, Patton. Thank you." Logan interjected, a careful eye trained on the anxious man. Virgil briefly met his gaze, nodding a quick thanks. Logan returned his smile and looked away before the others caught the flush growing across his cheeks. The rest of the week flew by, and suddenly it was All Hallows Eve. A few hours after the sun had set, the pair was on the road, toasty and warm in Virgil's all-wheel drive car. He drove while Logan navigated. Once they were on the main stretch of highway on their route, they fell into an easy silence. They'd been driving for nearly an hour when Virgil finally said, "Thanks for agreeing to go together, Lo. I wouldn't have wanted to go without you." Lost in thought, Virgil's words startled Logan, and his sudden intake of air caused him to briefly choke. Virgil glanced at him as he drove, grip tightening on the steering wheel. Are you okay, man? He asked, his voice about an octave too high. Do you need me to pull over? Waving him off, Logan cleared his throat and took a deep breath. I'm fine. I'm sorry to distract you. Virgil reached across and blindly squeezed Logan's shoulder. His face flushed in the darkness of the car. It's okay. You didn't distract me. I was just worried about you. I didn't mean to surprise you. Virgil brought his hand back to the wheel. I really appreciate you waiting for me to get off work before heading out to the party. I'm sure Remus probably wanted your help setting up. No, actually. He said he wanted it to be a surprise. Oh, that's weird. Virgil started to chew at his lip, and Logan quietly whispered, Lip. He smirked and released his teeth grip before he actually drew blood. Thanks. Weird how? Logan asked. He rubbed the back of his neck. Well, I think everybody else helped decorate. I don't know. I kind of get the feeling we're being set up. He winced and rushed to add, not like on a date. I mean, you know. Right. Logan quickly agreed. Yes, of course, not a date. Virgil nodded, thrumming his fingers on the steering wheel. Right, not a date. They drove in a relative silence for the final half hour of their trip, the highway narrowing to only one lane in either direction until Logan's map told them to exit onto a winding mountain road. After several more minutes of driving, Logan's phone dinged and they turned onto a poorly lit private street, which they followed to the end. The car slowly rolled to a stop at the end of a long, gravel-paved driveway. Before they got out, Virgil tugged at Logan's arm. Wait, he said, reaching for Logan's face with his other hand. Logan's eyes widened as he held his breath. Your makeup smudged. He grinned. You're not used to wearing makeup, are you? No, and certainly not full-face vampire makeup. He swallowed dryly as Virgil pulled a compact from his trouser pocket and dusted more powder on his face. He took out a blood-red lip pencil and leaned in close. Is this okay? Virgil asked. Logan nodded quickly. Virgil's hand trembled slightly as he held his chin and relined Logan's mouth. When he'd finished, he leaned back and examined his work. He stared at Logan for several moments before Logan finally stammered, Does it look bad? Virgil shook his head. No, he near shouted in the small space. He took a breath and smiled. No, he said in a lower voice. No, you make a good vampire. He shoved the compact back in his pocket, and after quickly touching up his own mouth, he put the liner back into the makeup bag in the console. We should go. Right, yes, we should. Logan fumbled with the door lock and slipped out into the cold, foggy air. They stood in quiet awe, staring out at the house before them. Remus and Roman had gotten permission from their uncles to use their house for the party. It was a large house, 3 stories tall, with a deep wraparound porch and big empty windows breaking up the chipped wooden plank siding. A small wooden swing sat in front of what at one time must have been a flower garden near the edge of the property. Virgil nudged the swing as they passed, and they both laughed breathlessly at the spooky whine it made as it moved. The only visible light was from the thin crescent moon peeking through a patch of clouds, and a few dim lamps that cast an eerie green glow out of the upper windows. The pair was hushed as they walked together up the narrow footpath toward the house, their steps cutting through the low fog, causing it to swirl up and around them in their wake. They stood side by side on the dark, creaky front porch. A whistling wind suddenly whipped their long, black velvet cloaks against their legs, and they huddled closer together. Virgil leaned on the doorbell. The trilling melody echoing through the mostly empty house was audible from the outside, but there was no response. Are we at the wrong place? Logan shook his head, staring down at the phone screen. These are the coordinates Remus sent us. He sighed and put his phone away before Virgil could see what else Remus had included in his suggestive emoji-studded message. Perhaps we should try one more time. He adjusted his glasses and drew his cloak a little tighter around himself with a shiver. Blowing out a quick puff of air, Virgil rang the bell one more time, and his finger lifted from the little button. The door creaked open, seemingly of its own volition. Virgil's eyes widened, unable to look away from the gloomy hallway that stretched out before them. "I'm really glad you're here, Elle." Nodding briefly, Logan hummed. Me too, Virg." He took a deep breath and stepped forward into the house. They had just cleared the threshold when a gust of wind seemed to slam the door shut behind them. Logan and Virgil both jumped, turning back to back, hands up and eyes scanning the darkness for threats. They both huffed out little laughs when they saw the hallway was empty. "I'm gonna kill Remus," Virgil muttered once he'd caught his breath. Logan laughed shakily. "Only if you get to him first. I know where he sleeps." Virgil cackled. "When he's not at Janice's dorm, you mean?" Taking care not to touch his makeup as he pushed his eyeglasses back into place, Logan grinned. "We'd still know where he was." He looked around the darkened hallway. "Which way do you suppose we should go?" "Let's get this over with," he gulped audibly. "Basement?" Logan tapped against his thigh but nodded. "Basement," he agreed. They'd only made it halfway down the rickety wooden stairs when a figure leapt out in front of them, first growling, then tripping over its gauzy sheet. The figure stood in front of them, raising its arms over its head, causing the sheet to lift, revealing khaki pants and light blue sneakers, the laces adorned with paw prints. Patton quickly tugged the sheet off his head, smiling at the pair. His face had been painted with ghastly shades of gray and green, with black stippling marks around the edges of his eyes and mouth and down his neck. "Don't worry, kiddos. It's just me under all this makeup." Roman stood up from his hiding place behind a billiards table, similarly dressed and done up. "Patton!" His voice came out a bit of a whine. "You'll give it all away. You have to stay in character." "Hey there, Princey," Virgil drawled. "Want us to try it again?" He huffed, arms crossed in front of his chest and lower lip protruding. "It won't be the same." Sheet draped over his shoulders and dragging behind him like a train, Patton skipped down the stairs and hugged Roman, standing on his tiptoes to kiss his cheek. "Come on, it'll be fun." "Maybe." He narrowed his eyes at Virgil and Logan. "Maybe we'll just have to get you on the way out." Patton giggled and dropped his sheet back over himself and waved his hands, calling out in his best spooky voice, "You'll just have to keep going." Virgil and Logan chuckled, their voices slowly petering out as they moved down a narrow corridor into another section of the basement. Logan ran his hand along the wallpaper-covered surface next to him, feeling around for a light switch. Finally, his fingers brushed against the comforting, curved bevel of a switch cover. He felt around for the switch, but could only feel several layers of duct tape. Pulling out his phone, he turned on the flashlight, illuminating a hand-lettered sign that simply said, "No, Logan." Sighing, Logan turned off the flashlight on his phone and, noting its battery level, put it into low power mode. He shrugged at Virgil. "It was a good idea, Elle," he said quietly, leaning a little closer as they passed a large, hopefully fake, spiderweb. When properly lit, the finished basement was likely a homey place. The wallpaper had shown a bright buttery cream color in the brief illumination of Logan's flashlight, and the floors were plushly carpeted. There were several heating ducts at regular intervals in the floor, leading them both to believe the Terror Twins had simply turned off the furnaces to give the house its foreboding chill. They worked together to check each door that they passed. Virgil would try the doorknob, and if it turned, Logan would stand by with his flashlight for a quick peek inside. Most led to empty or nearly empty rooms. One opened into a cozy sewing room, and another had walls lined in soundproofing blocks. Virgil looked round the equipment in the room. "I think this is where their uncle records his live streams." They quickly shut the door and continued to the end of the hall. The last door wouldn't open, and Virgil and Logan turned to each other, laughing quietly. "Wouldn't it be just like Ree to scare us about being scared?" "Regrettably, yes." Logan adjusted his glasses and barely avoided licking away the liner on his lips. Virgil stepped a little closer. I'm kind of glad he drug us out here, though. It's, Virgil cleared his throat and shoved his hands in his pockets. It's, been really nice hanging out, you know? And he stared at his shoes. You know, just the two of us. His words came out in a jumble. Logan stared at Virgil, nodding slightly. I was thinking something similar. In fact, I was, Logan's breath caught in his throat and he started frantically tapping out a breathing pattern against his leg. I wanted to ask you. Accompanied by a distorted roar, the door behind them yanked open with enough force to shake the wall. Virgil froze, eyes wide at the howling, disembodied face floating before them, dripping, glowing goop cascading down its features. Virgil reached for Logan's hand, but instead of warm skin, he grasped air. He looked around in panic. Elle, where'd you go? The monstrous face disappeared as Remus ripped off his mask and turned on the light in the room where he'd been hiding. The bright light poured into the hallway, clearly illuminating the black bodysuit Remus was wearing to better hide in the dark. "Hello?" he called out loudly before looking down at the pile of clothes in a heap on the floor. "Oh, shit, Lo, I'm sorry." Virgil followed Remus's gaze and screamed, "What? What happened to him? Where'd he go?" Remus smiled and crouched in front of the pile of clothes, tugging Virgil down with him. Logan didn't go anywhere. He fished through the long black cloak and pushed aside Logan's trousers, feeling around until his smile grew and he pulled out a small black cat with bright blue eyes. "Logan's right here." Mouth gaping open, Virgil finally choked out, "Logan can shapeshift?" Nodding, Remus spoke softly to the cat. "I'm so sorry, Lo. I didn't mean to really scare you." He gently scratched behind the cat's ears and he started to purr. "I just wanted to give you an excuse to hold the emo's hand." The purring stopped. Why? Virgil stared at the cat with wide eyes. "Why would he want to do that?" The cat squirmed in Remus's arms. "Oh, skip to the song and dance already. It's getting boring." Remus adjusted his grip around the cat, fighting to keep a hold on him without either of them getting hurt. The little cat's claws flexed in and out. Remus rolled his eyes at Virgil. "I know you like him." He raised the cat in his hands. "And newsflash, the little furtive feline here likes you too." "What? No, he doesn't. Virgil peered closely at the cat's blue eyes. We're just... The cat hissed at Remus and ran off. "For someone who doesn't like you, he seems awfully angry that I let his secret slip. Well, his other secret." Virgil began to gather Logan's clothes and his costume, careful to not let his phone and wallet fall out of his trouser pockets. "So, you knew about all of this too?" He gestured at the clothes Logan had shed when he'd shrunk into the tiny black cat now skittering around somewhere in the haunted house. "Yeah." Remus shoved his hands in his pockets. "I don't think he meant for me to find out, but there's only so long you can hide something like that from your roommate." Virgil gnawed on his lip, hugging Logan's clothes against his chest to keep them clear of the goop dripping from Remus's costume. "I should go find him. If he shifts back alone, he's gonna be buck naked." Remus waggled his eyebrows. "You know, maybe you should wait a bit." "Remus, don't even start." I'm kidding. He shooed Virgil in the direction they'd seen the cat run towards. "Go find your favorite Keen kitten and bring him his clothes." "Keen kitten? How many of those you got, man?" "Hundreds." Remus shimmied his shoulders, the movement splattering glops of goop all around him. "I haven't even gotten to the dirty ones yet." Remus sauntered off, cackling. "Can you at least turn on the rest of the lights, Ree?" he called after him, wincing at the sudden brightness when Remus granted his request. Virgil retraced their steps, checking under the stairs, around the hall, and under furniture as he walked slowly back upstairs. Finally, Virgil heard a tiny meow from behind the side table in the foyer. He crouched down and came nose to nose with the tiny black cat. The cat blinked at him. "Hi, Elle." he said softly. He raised the bundle of clothes in his hands. I brought you your clothes for when you shift back. The cat blinked at him, then looked away. I can leave them right here for you, or if you want to follow me back down, maybe in that sewing room. It was nice and quiet, and I can close the door and let you be. The cat stepped out of his hiding place, and Virgil started to stand and turn back toward the stairs when the cat meowed loudly. He stilled, and the cat started to rub against his leg, then went up on his own hind legs, putting his front paws on Virgil's shin. You don't want me to do that. The cat sat primly in front of his feet and meowed again. I don't know for sure what you want, Elle. Can you even understand me? The cat blinked twice at him, slowly, almost sleepily. Do you want me to pick you up? He guessed, and the cat butted his head against Virgil's pant leg, rubbing his shoulders back and forth against the soft material. He tucked Logan's clothes under one arm, bent over, carefully lifting the cat. He curled on his back in Virgil's arms and purred. Okay, that's definitely a yes. He looked around and saw a small reading nook down the hall. I'm gonna take you over there. He turned his body to show the cat the small, out-of-the-way love seat. Is that okay? The cat continued to purr, relaxed in his arms. Virgil first sat down Logan's clothes, then sat cross-legged on the couch, letting the cat lay in his lap. The tiny cat walked back and forth across his legs and turned in a circle several times before pawing at Virgil's arms. Virgil held the cat close to his chest again, and his purring resumed. This must be really scary, Elle. I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry you had to go through this. Virgil gently petted him, rubbing the fluffy fur behind his ears and under his chin. He felt the cat slowly melt in his arms. I hope you aren't too mad at Remus for giving away your secret, 'cause... The cat stared at Virgil, eyes wide and attentive. 'Cause I don't know if I would have been brave enough to tell you that I like you, too, Elle. A lot. The cat curled in his lap and rubbed his head against Virgil's knee. Virgil sighed with a smile and continued to stroke the cat's soft fur, his gentle purr soothing both of them into a sleepy daze. I guess we have a lot to talk about when you've calmed down, huh? The cat slowly closed his eyes and curved his tail around Virgil's arm. Don't worry, Elle. I'll be right here with you to keep you safe until you do. Thank you all for listening. Again, this story was Fear Response. I do hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful day.